Hello everyone. This is the 34th part of the story, Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Chapter 210, Beginning. If it was someone else, it would be impossible for them to do it. Therefore, Bruce really admired Iron Man on this point. How is it going recently? Bruce did not say much, but to ask a question like that. At this moment, Bruce's meaning was very simple, which was to ask him what had happened recently, and what he had prepared for the war. And Iron Man naturally knew what Bruce meant. After he heard Bruce's words, a smile appeared on his face. The preparation is very complete, but if we only rely on human forces, then it's impossible to resist them. Then Iron Man sighed slightly. His expression was a little gloomy. He still remembered that Bruce had told him before that the technology that the enemy had mastered was more advanced than theirs. That was why he had summoned the world's top scientists to invent many advanced weapons during this period of time, because he knew that it would be very difficult for them to deal with those guys. But finally, it still had to rely on superheroes. This was undoubtful, because superheroes had their own powerful means, and there were also more powerful wills than ordinary people. Therefore he had to rely on these people to survive this crisis. But he still did not make that call yet. Although he knew that Captain America and his men could help them a lot, he still could not put down his self-esteem. He wanted to rely on his own strength to help the Earth survive this crisis. And after hearing Iron Man's words, Bruce also knew what he meant. Then he lifted his head and looked at Mark 85, which was still developing in front of him. According to the plot, it was the battle armor that actually would be invented in the plot of Avengers Alliance 4. But just because of Bruce's words, Iron Man made it in advance. This was completely nano-built, very horrible. But even so, Bruce did not need it either. Because the armor had no much significance to him. On the contrary, if he downloaded this armor, his ability would be limited. Previously, he also wanted to download Iron Man's strongest brain, but it seemed that he did not need it anymore. Because in the Marvel world, no matter what kind of thing happened, it would ultimately depend on his own strength. Strength was the symbol of everything. Although wisdom was also very important, wisdom was not so useful in front of powerful people. So the most important was still power. It was like in the plot of Avengers Alliance 3, no matter what kind of scheme the Avengers thought, when they truly faced Thanos, there was no use at all. Only a powerful strength could solve everything. Because Bruce knew these well, that wisdom was nothing to him. In addition to his understanding of the Marvel world, it was not that important for him now to predict everything. Whether it was Iron Man's strongest brain or Mark armor, it was not now Bruce's target. At that moment, he turned around and looked at Iron Man in front of him. No matter what, unite. If you can't step out of this, then I'll help you. Bruce solemnly said this now, although he had confidence in confronting Thanos. If he wanted to defeat him completely, he would still need to rely on those Avengers. At least they would help him fight easily. This was his goal and was what he wanted to do next. Of course, these should wait until the beginning of Avengers Alliance 3. Later, they chatted for a while, then Bruce left directly. Whereafter, Iron Man was totally immersed in his own world again. Bruce and Vision left and watched the weapons that Avengers Base were developing. In the next few days, don't act alone. If possible, stay with me. At this moment, Bruce did not turn back, and he directly said this to Vision behind him. Because one of the goals of Thanos was just Vision. In the previous wars, almost all of them were under Thanos's control. Therefore, he clearly knew about many superheroes of the Earth. Thanos was an antagonist, but in IQ, he was not much weaker than Iron Man. And this was just another terrifying point. Thanos had even found Bruce's existence. But Bruce was sure that he did not know much about himself, because he had an unlimited download system, which could help him avoid everything. Therefore, even the one above all, OA, could not detect him. Bruce could be called the most mysterious person in the world. And he was also the key figure to defeat Thanos. Vision had Ming Gem, so he was definitely the goal of Thanos. As for Thanos's men, Bruce did not give attention to them at all. Therefore, as long as Vision stayed around Bruce, the Mind Gem would not be taken away. After hearing Bruce's words, Vision nodded slightly. "Mr. Bruce, I got you." Then Bruce laughed and did not say anything more. In this way, Bruce had been staying at the Avengers base for a long period of time. Either he was training with Parker, nor he was carrying out an assessment of weapons with Iron Man. Although Bruce had no knowledge in this area, he could still help Iron Man a lot. In the Avengers base, everyone was actively preparing for the war. Bruce also told the thing about Thanos to Wakanda by Scarlet Witch. Wakanda owned a technology that exceeded 1,000 years outside the world, so she was also actively preparing for the war after she got Bruce's news. It could be said that Bruce's words had brought the world's superheroes together. As for Ant-Man and Hawkeye, Bruce had told Iron Man that they would directly go over their people and come directly to support them. In this way, time went by, and Bruce had stayed in the Avengers base for nearly 3 months. And in 3 months, he was almost ready for everything. During this period, no one was idle. And one morning, when Bruce and Iron Man were studying the deployment plan, the Golden Circle appeared again. Then Iron Man saw the Golden Circle and slightly shrugged. And Bruce narrowed his eyes slightly. Would it start? As expected, the next moment, Doctor Strange came out. His face was solemn and his neck was with the eye of Agamotto. At this moment, he was very nervous. He looked at Bruce and the Iron Man in front of him and said directly, "Dr. Banner is in Camartage, and the planet is going to meet a big crisis." Then everyone was shocked by this sentence. The plot of Avengers Alliance 3 was really beginning. Chapter 2:11, Landing. Then all of them came to the holy place in New York with Doctor Strange. Dr. Banner was indeed there. He said to the crowd, "Thanos has appeared," and he hurt Banner heavily, and then Hulk was knocked unconscious. And when I woke up, I had already fallen here. Next, Dr. Banner appeared with a sad face. Heimdall was killed, and Loki was strangled. Except Thor, Asgards were all over. Therefore, Thanos also got the space gem of Asgard. Oh ho! Listening to Dr. Banner's vindication, everyone took a breath of cold air. Thanos was too powerful. The power gem was originally placed on Xander. Now it was in Thanos' hand, then it meant that the Xander had been wiped out. Then he defeated Odin's 2 sons and the Hulk with a power gem. At the moment, Thanos had 2 infinite gems. Not only is his power invincible now, but also he could rely on the space gem to move freely. Who could stop it? Even Bruce, who was at God level, had to admit this point. He would not be an opponent if Thanos had gathered 6 infinite gems. At that time, it would be the same as the original plot of Avengers Alliance 3, Thanos would kill half of the life on the Earth and the universe with a snap. Therefore, what the Avengers needed to do now was to prevent Thanos from gathering all infinite gems. Friday, bring up the satellite picture. At the moment, Iron Man Stark said to Friday, which was a newly developed artificial intelligence by him. "Yes, sir," said Friday. Then, the crowd saw a spaceship which was with a similar shape resembling the donut flying rapidly from the projection of the Iron Man Stark's arm. Then the donut appeared with 5 blue light columns, and the famous Black Order of Thanos was in it. Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw, Supergiant and Black Dwarf. Beep, please host the Black Order within 1 week. At the moment, the task of the system was also released. Bruce knew that 5 people came to Earth to steal the gems. After all, Time Gem and Mind Gem were on Earth. And Thanos also knew that 1 gem was on Doctor Strange's neck and another was on Vision's head. Therefore, he sent the 5 people to rob them. As for him, he went to rob the Reality Gem and the Soul Gem. In the original plot, after Black Order came to the Earth and they surprised the Avengers, and Doctor Strange was also caught in a donut ship, and Vision also got seriously hurt. But now, everyone was well prepared, including Bruce and Quicksilver, who should originally be dead. Therefore, the surprise attack also turned into an ambush of the Avengers Alliance. The Black Order. At the moment, Iron Man stood up and patted Dr. Banner's shoulder. "Don't worry, Dr. Banner. Even if Thanos has a power that could kill us, but as long as we unite, we still have a chance to fight back." Bruce looked up at the Iron Man and nodded with a smile. It seemed that Iron Man had finally figured it out. So, let's go to Wakanda first. After all, it's the safest place. Doctor Strange waved his hands to the crowd and opened the portal to Wakanda with the sling ring. Then everyone nodded and most of them walked into the golden transport gate and left the holy place. The next they needed to do was to cooperate with the captain of Wakanda and Black Panther to build the ultimate defensive line of the Earth. And Doctor Strange and Vision decided to stay to attract the attention of the enemy, saving some time for others. And Bruce of course also stayed here. As the crowd just left, the Donut spacecraft arrived at the gate of the holy place in New York. Due to the huge size of the Donut spaceship, when it landed, it crashed into numerous high buildings. The people who saw such scenes were all screaming and fleeing from the scene. And the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who had already been informed immediately began to evacuate the crowd. At the moment, Ebony Maw flew up from the spaceship and landed on the ground with the Black Dwarf. His crystal ball showed that Strange and the Time Gem were right here. As expected, Strange, who was wearing a red cloak, opened the gate of the holy place and appeared. Looking at the Doctor Strange who walked out of the holy place, he smiled. Looking at what you're doing now, you're enlightened. Are you ready to hand over the Time Gem initiatively? As he spoke, he lifted his right hand and made a move to be ready to take it. Then give it to me, I can leave you a whole body. But Strange was indifferent. Ebony Maw found that Strange was playing with him, then he became very angry. You want to die. After saying that, he lifted his hand coolly, then the countless stones around him were floating in the air with his psyche power. Immediately afterwards, he waved his hand again, the stones which were turned into piercing stones all flew over to Strange. At the moment the piercing stone would touch him, Strange quickly drew the space door and transferred the stone to the desert. Dong, dong. Black Dwarf stepped forward and took out his giant alloy sickle and ran towards Strange. It seemed as if it was about to break down Strange. Just as Strange was ready to block the shield with a charmed shield on his arms through the magic, Bruce suddenly appeared. He wore sunglasses, wearing a black suit, and hit the Black Dwarf's stomach with a heavy punch. Then the indestructible skin and the weight of the Black Dwarf immediately became a joke in front of Bruce's spiritual power. With one punch, Black Dwarf crashed into the two tall buildings, then continued to fly. Bruce disappeared again. He launched the ability of high-speed movement and moved to the back of Black Dwarf, giving him another heavy punch. Then, Black Dwarf flew back according to the original road again. Ebony Maw looked at Black Dwarf without any expression, but he found that he could not see how Bruce had punched at all. Obviously, he would be the same as Black Dwarf if Bruce attacked him. Chapter 212, Vibranium. Ebony Maw was not as foolish as Black Dwarf. Obviously, Bruce's power needed to be re-estimated, and the present Ebony Maw couldn't deal with Bruce. At the moment, Ebony Maw just wanted to inform the ship to escape, because Black Dwarf was not important to him. But when he wanted to leave, he found that his body was out of control. And no matter how hard he tried to mobilize psyche power, his body was still motionless. Moreover, he would frequently feel painful because of excessive force. And this feeling was just like that he was covered with the god's telekinesis by a real god. At the moment, Ebony Maw knew that he was in great trouble today. And now the hapless Black Dwarf were almost dying. When Black Dwarf was being beaten, Bruce looked through his information. Name, Black Dwarf. Identity, one of the Black Order. Ability, Super Strength, 10W Energy Value, Super Density, 10W Energy Value, Super Skin, 10W Energy Value. Sickle Control, 15 Energy Value. At the moment, Bruce just dismissively twitched his mouth. Because for the present Bruce who had War God's body, these abilities of Black Dwarf could only be described as rubbish. They did not have any use. And after several rounds, Black Dwarf almost was about to be killed. Beep, congratulations to the host for killing Black Dwarf and getting 100,000 energy values. After Bruce had killed Black Dwarf, and then he came to Ebony Maw unhurriedly. By touching Ebony Maw's body, Bruce learned about his information. Name, Ebony Maw. Identity, one of the Black Order. Ability, language control, 10W energy value, smart tongue, 10W energy value, psychokinesis, 20W energy value. It was good. Although Ebony Maw had only 3 abilities, he was also a master, so he was much stronger than Black Dwarf. But for the present Bruce, Ebony Maw was also of little use. Language control was equivalent to hypnosis, and it could only impact those who had weak will. And as for smart tongue, it made Bruce think of Naruto's mouth escape. So it was no wonder that each time before Ebony Maw's fight, he would continuously speak rather than act. Even in the previous plot when he grabbed Iron Man, Ebony Maw didn't kill him immediately. Instead, Ebony Maw tried to persuade him slowly and patiently. But finally, he was successfully killed by someone else. Are you Bruce? You are actually extraordinary. As long as you let me go, I will help you after Thanos rules the universe. Even if Ebony Maw would die, he would also chat with Bruce endlessly. Well, Ebony Maw, I'm not interested in those monsters you're working with. So you'd better give up. At the moment, Bruce said calmly. You don't like monsters, don't you? It's all right. I can ask Thanos to help you leave the Earth. And with your talent, you could be the king of the Earth. After all, what Thanos wants to rule is the whole universe. Then under the impact of Bruce's surging god's telekinesis, Ebony Maw's voice abruptly stopped. And then he crooked his neck and died. Beep. Congratulations to the host for killing Ebony Maw and getting 100,000 energy values. It was good. After killing 2 of Thanos' generals, he could get 200,000 energy values. When receiving the new energy value, Bruce was delighted and said with a slight ridicule, if we let this guy talk again, then the Yellow River will stop flowing. What is the Yellow River? At the moment, Doctor Strange who was beside him asked him curiously. After all, he had only been to Hong Kong, so it was normal that he did not know the Yellow River. Well. Bruce glanced at Strange awkwardly. The Yellow River is a beautiful river in the east, which raises countless Chinese children. I'll take you there when we are free. Oh. After sending Ebony Maw to Wakanda, Bruce immediately left New York by the delivery door and came to Vision's battlefield. Although being prepared well, plus the help of Quicksilver and Parker, Vision was still seriously injured by Proxima Midnight. And then, Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive escaped. Therefore, when Bruce came, he only saw the dying Vision who had a big hole in the chest, the nervous Parker and the others. Such a pure vibranium body can still not be depended on. Bruce thought. Looking at Spider-Man who was just like a child doing wrong things. Bruce said with a smile, well, Peter, don't worry. As long as Vision goes to Wakanda, he'll immediately recover as before. Possibly he can become much stronger than before. Really, sir? That'll be great. Parker said. But Quicksilver just stood aside silently. Although he reacted fast, the attack could not break the defense of the Corvus Glaive. So naturally, it couldn't work greatly. It seemed that Bruce must create a weapon for Quicksilver in the future. And it would better be a pure vibranium warsuit just like Black Panther's. In this way, Quicksilver's speed wouldn't be controlled by his body, and naturally, he would be much stronger. After all, what restricted Quicksilver was still his own body. Because without enough force and excellent corporeality, even having fast speed, Quicksilver could not beat the others as relaxed as Bruce. And after bringing the others back to Wakanda, Bruce immediately went to Black Panther. He took a trip on Wakanda's Black Tech subway. And then Bruce saw the owner, T'Challa, the king of Wakanda. Moreover, beside him was his sister, that was, Wakanda's princess, Shu Han. At the moment, T'Challa had already learned about Bruce's information. So T'Challa knew that Bruce was both an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a key figure in the protection of the Earth. Therefore, there was no contempt, Bruce was treated as a VIP. Hi, Bruce, what's up? At the moment, T'Challa reached out his hand, and then Bruce calmly held it. And then, Black Panther's information came out. Name, T'Challa. Identity, Black Panther, King of Wakanda. Ability, Super Acute, Energy Value 10W, super speed, energy value 10W, super endurance, energy value 10W, super sensory, energy value 10W, Kinger fighting technique, energy value 15W, and vibranium extraction, energy value 20W. In fact, Black Panther didn't have any super ability. It was only because he took the heart-shaped grass, he was much stronger than the ordinary people. His power was mainly supported by vibranium armor, which provided indestructible and energy-absorbing properties for him. And now, what Bruce needed was just Black Panther's vibranium. Vibranium was just the reason why Wakanda wanted to hide. Because Wakanda set up illusions around itself by using black tech, which let the passing people think that this place was just a forest. And finally, the outside world only knew that Wakanda was just a primitive tribe, and they didn't know about their black tech at all. At the moment, Bruce was ready to download Black Panther's vibranium ability without any hesitation. Beep, the connection is successful. It needs 10,000 energy values to download vibranium extraction, yes or no? Yes. Beep, congratulations to the host for obtaining vibranium extraction, and it could continuously produce vibranium in the future. Chapter 213, Accumulation. Vibranium extraction was good stuff. At the moment, Bruce thought about this. Then it would be very easy to upgrade Vision and Quicksilver's abilities. Of course, these things could not be easily exposed. Otherwise, the Wakanda people who had vowed would run over and kill him. He believed that the system could solve the problem as perfectly as Iron Man's battle armor. After chatting with the Black Panther and his sister, Bruce left the lounge of the King's Room of Wakanda and returned to his own residence. After that, he told Quicksilver to look for him with Vision to the designated place, and then they left Wakanda together. After all, there were black tech everywhere in Wakanda, so once they were targeted, then there was no way to explain it. Quicksilver and Vision quickly arrived in front of him. Vision remained gloomy at this moment. After all, his body was only made of panalloy materials, so it was not easy for him to recover quickly after being hit by Corvus Glaive. At the moment, Bruce placed his hand on Vision's body and used the vibranium extraction. Beep, use the vibranium extraction to transform the physical condition of Vision requires 1000 energy values. Yes or no? Yes. Then, a magic scene took place. The body of Vision was transformed from the original red-white to pure black. Some of the key parts appeared a number of light spots like the stars, giving a mysterious sense under the light of the night light. It definitely became more beautiful than before. It was so cool. At the moment, Bruce immediately looked at Vision's information. Name, Vision. Identity, Artificial Intelligence Evolution Product. Ability, Mind Gem, the Cosmic Level Force, cannot be resolved, Mental Radiation, Energy Value 5W, Vibranium, Energy Value 5W, Body Blur, Energy Value 3000, Flight Capability, Energy Value 2000. Not bad, Bruce thought. Vision had gotten a new ability of Vibranium Corporeity, which undoubtedly greatly strengthened the fighting ability. Some attacks would also be absorbed and destroyed by Vibranium. The enhanced Vision would no longer be seriously injured by Black Order. Using 1000 energy value to get an ability which was worth 50,000, it was very worth it. After Vision felt that his body had been repaired, and his face was visibly improved. After his body was repaired, he stood on the ground with a virtualization and bowed to Bruce. Thank you very much, my master. I'll never forget it. You are welcome, only you can recover and show your value. Then Bruce took up Vision and came to the front of Quicksilver. In fact, everyone had already known the relationship between Bruce and Scarlet Witch. Therefore, as Wanda's brother, Quicksilver then became the brother-in-law of Bruce. Then the two men's father, Magneto, naturally turned into Bruce's father-in-law. This father-in-law was not ordinary, he was able to easily fight against Iron Man and Wolverine. Therefore, Bruce must download his abilities if he could have the chance in the future. Now he had to get along well with his brother-in-law. Thinking of this, Bruce put his hand on the Quicksilver's shoulder. Beep, using the vibranium extraction requires 1000 energy values for Quicksilver's additional armor. Yes or no? Yes. Then a metal ripple appeared from the tip of Bruce's fingertips, and Vision's body was like a nanotechnology, with a layer of white armor emerging. Like Vision, Quicksilver's armor also appeared in a colorful sky with stars. Stars were decorated on the armor, which was mysterious and cool. After a while, the upgrade of enhanced Quicksilver was completed. Therefore, when Quicksilver met the Black Order again, he would not have to worry that he was unable to do anything except saving others. When Quicksilver's body became hard, the kinetic energy generated at the speed of transcending the sound speed was extremely terrifying. And Quicksilver also would not be killed as easily as before. More importantly, his speed became so fast that no one could find that he wore vibranium armor. "Thank you, sir." After knowing the benefits that he had gained, Quicksilver expressed his gratitude to Bruce excitedly. "Well, these armors are called Star Armor today. This is my new ability from the Mind Gem. Do you understand?" "Yes." The two spoke at the same time. Looking at the two people, Bruce thought that even if the Wakanda people doubted the origin of vibranium, he could also obtain better armor by upgrading the vibranium extraction. Then the Wakanda people could do nothing. After all, vibranium extraction was transformed through his own energy. Therefore, it was originally his own, and he was not afraid of anyone to investigate it. When the two left, it had already been midnight. And Bruce also returned to Wakanda, as Wanda would come to him soon. The next morning, Bruce came to Captain America and found that he was also equipped with a vibranium armor with the consent of Black Panther. It was only that these armors could only be used in Wakanda. Black Panther naturally trusted Captain America, so Captain America also helped Falcon and Black Widow get one. As for Iron Man, who had been almost killed by Thanos in the original plot, this time, he had a chance to study the black tech of Wakanda. And he was ready to study armor which was able to resist Thanos before the war came. Dr. Banner, who can't transform into Hulk, was also very happy to improve his armor now, and he was very satisfied with that he could participate in the battle directly without transforming into Hulk. The Avengers Alliance 3.0 was becoming more powerful than the original plot. As for the Guardians of Galaxy, they should have been all killed by Thanos. Bruce only could feel a pity for the daughter of Thanos, Gamora. Because her sister always wanted to kill her because of jealousy. And her dad also wanted to kill her because of the Soul Gem. Her boyfriend was even foolish. How unlucky one person was to meet these people. What could she do except cry? Moreover, if he wanted to protect her, then he must use an Avenger to exchange for the Soul Gem. Because if the sacrifice of the Soul Gem was not strong, then its power would be weakened. And Bruce also prepared to study Soul Gem well after he killed Thanos. With so many factors, the death of Gamora naturally became part of Bruce's plan. As for Thor, just let him come to Dwarf King to recreate his new battle axe. After all, his original Mjolnir had already belonged to Bruce. As soon as Thor got the new battle axe, Bruce was sure to analyze it. After all, the new battle axe had the power of the Rainbow Bridge, which could bring Thor to Earth in a short time. As for the Treeman Groot, he naturally was the best material to do the axe's handle. In Bruce's view, the Guardians of Galaxy were just such warm-hearted guys. Chapter 214, War. Inside the holy place of New York, Dr. Strange, who was dressed in a magic robe, was closing his eyes. At the moment, he was strengthening his control over the magic by practicing. But suddenly, he opened his eyes. Here comes the enemy. As the current Supreme Sorcerer and the Guardian of the Earth, he instantly felt that the Dark Core would attack. At the moment, Wong, who was behind Strange, immediately stood up, and a large number of masters gathered. Wong used the magic power to open the passage leading to Wakanda, and then got in first. And the master behind him followed closely. Looking at the holy place's main force entering the Wakanda battlefield, Strange slightly sighed. After all, the master was not a warrior, and any master's qualification was far beyond a warrior. And it was very difficult to find a person with a master's ability even among tens of thousands of people. Therefore, when cultivating this group of masters, Wong and Strange had spent lots of effort. But in this war, only a few masters could survive. Strange shook his head helplessly, and then drew a delivery door to walk in. Here was Wakanda's border. At the moment, various kinds of monsters were outside of the blue power cover. They fluttered with their claws and swooped onto the mask. The front monsters had just died, when the behind immediately came. It seemed that these monsters were endlessly coming from the cosmic ships which were behind the battlefield. And under their impact, the mask loaded heavily, and the light circle began to flicker. Here was the territory of Wakanda. At the moment, a black beauty, who was dressed in a sexy general uniform, was standing at the forefront with a vibranium spear. She exuded the spirit of the ancient Amazonian soldiers. And behind her, all of the bodyguard soldiers were very valiant. They were all the female heroes. In fact, they were the King Guard of Black Panther. At the moment, the King's bodyguard team was in a straight line. They looked at the monsters in front of him calmly, waiting for the moment when the shield was opened. And behind the guard team, it was the Black Panther T'Challa who was wearing a noble black uniform, with a crown on the head, and a leopard-toothed necklace around his neck. He just stood calmly with his hands behind the back, and gave all the subjects a sense of calmness and self-confidence. And it seemed that even if the sky was collapsing, he could also protect Wakanda. Apart from the King's Guard, there were also the bodyguard soldiers of the Wakanda tribes around the Black Panther. At the moment, the Wakanda tribal warriors were kneeling on one knee, holding a shield and a spear. The shield and the spear were all created by vibranium, and gathered the best single-arm technique in Wakanda. And the shield could release the blue mask and increase the scope of protection. The spear could release the laser light and show the power which was stronger than the laser gun. Moreover, every soldier also wore a mechanical ball developed by Wakanda on their waist. These mechanical balls had artificial intelligence and diverse functions. They could not only help communicate, but also heal the injury of tribal soldiers. More importantly, they could also analyze the situation on the scene and search for important figures. And behind the warrior were the light prism, the versatile fighter, the air war car, and the multifunctional laser cannon. They built a defensive system of Wakanda's high-tech. Therefore, a city's military strength was sufficient to withstand the offensive of the whole country. And this was just the Wakanda behind the scenes. Captain Rogers, Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Hunter, Dr. Sonda of the driving machine, and the Avengers gathered and stood in a row. And then, they slowly walked to the forefront of the team. At the moment, the scattered monsters were constantly tearing and finally breaking through the defense. Then, they also squeezed in from the shield. Swoosh! At the moment, tribal warriors took the laser spear and shot out blue laser lights. And then, the monsters' heads were precisely pierced. Whereafter, the four-armed monsters that wanted to kill the warriors fell on the ground before completing their mission. But this was just a microcosm of the battlefield. At the moment, the monster army didn't have any intention to give up, and they were still killing the warriors as before. If it went on like this, things would be worse. So T'Challa shouted at all the troops, all defenses. And the Wakanda soldiers immediately responded collectively, defense. Defense. Looking at the incredible spirit of the soldiers, T'Challa nodded with satisfaction and then ordered to remove the protective cover. Wakanda's soldiers are not afraid to fight closely. Fight! Fight! At the moment, the shield was finally opened in the roar of the tribal soldiers. And the monsters of the Dark Corps rushed out, just like the hungry wolves which had been locked for several days. Puff! The monster in the forefront was shot by Hawkeye's arrow. At the moment, the Avengers started slaughtering. Captain America and Winter Soldier cooperated with each other, and beat all the monsters nearby to death. And Black Widow opened the Widow's Bite. And every time she swung it lightly, there would inevitably leave a fatal wound on the monster's body. As for Spider-Man, he wrapped around the monster he saw, and the devil eye behind him immediately hurt the monsters again. Thump, thump, thump. More monsters came out. Boom! 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 At the moment, the city's laser cannon was officially launched. And later, they were tearing the monsters which had no mask blocking. And then, the line of tribal soldiers' defense quickly docked with the monsters tied. Ah, ah. At the moment, Wakanda's soldiers gradually began to get hurt and get killed by the monsters as well. Chala frowned and ordered all the generals to fight freely. Then he pulled the leopard tooth necklace and joined the warring states. Although Wakanda's soldiers were very elite, and the Avengers were also working hard, the monsters still didn't stop, and the battle line began to move constantly towards the city. Dr. Banner's Hulk armor was surrounded by the monster. At the moment, the monsters were about to break in and kill Dr. Banner. Just at the critical moment, a 12-meter-thick light column descended from the sky. And then, it blew the monsters up around Dr. Banner. And after the light column, Thor held the newly created god's weapon and returned, dressed in a red cloak. Obviously, he became more confident at the second return. Moreover, there stood a raccoon and a small tree man beside him. Thor's attack was a nuclear bomb, and then a lot of monsters were charged to coke at a casual stroke. Because the newly created divine axe greatly impacted the power of thunderbolts. At the moment, Thor was constantly killing the monster and he didn't even need to breathe. Well done, Thor. Captain America killed a monster with a shield and came to Thor. But Thor didn't boast as before, but said coldly, "Where is Thanos?" Thanos? Captain America patted the mechanical ball at the waist, and then it silently circled a few circles of halo. Thanos was not found in the battlefield, sir. The electronic synthesis sound of the mechanical ball replied. Well, then we'll kill the enemy until he shows up. Obviously, Thor was not satisfied with the response. At the moment, Captain America looked at Thor surprisingly. Because he still didn't know that Thor's brother Rocky had been killed by Thanos cruelly. This marks the end of part 34 of the story Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.